Hi, this is Dan Pastorini, and you're listening to The Grilling Truth.
Welcome to the Grilling Truth Baseball Legends Show. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and right now I want to welcome in my co-host, as always, Matt Andruscavage.
Thanks very much, Mike.
All right, so this is our second Baseball Legends Show. Our first Legends Show was a little while back with former Major League great Tommy John. Our guest tonight was also a pitcher, was selected to the 2001 National League AllStar team. I think he won 20 games that season. Help me welcome in former Major League Baseball pitcher, Jon Lieber. How you doing, John?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for having
me. All right,
me.
So let's just start off at the start. When did you start playing baseball? What got you started? And did you have any influences when you were younger growing up, baseball-wise?
Well, I've always, I played the sport ever since I was probably 4 or 5. Was just a game that I just enjoyed playing. It's probably the one sport that I really played year in, year out. I didn't play 1 year because I might have been intimidated by the challenges that moving up to a different level or whatever. But I got back into it and just enjoyed it. I think I was more influenced, by my older brother. He played all the way up through high school, and just kind of followed in his footsteps. He's 5 years older, and was never a goal of mine to play professional ball. I just enjoyed playing, and was just going to see how far it would take me.
Well, tell us a little bit about your experience at Abraham Lincoln High.
Yeah, well, it's I only played varsity. My senior year. I was up and down my junior year. I basically played outfield. I wasn't very fast or anything, but was known for a pretty strong arm. So I basically played right field, pitched a little bit. Never really got recruited or anything. Was I think pretty well known for my hitting at the time. And then it seemed like when I left Abraham Lincoln High School and went on to college is when I really started getting noticed for my arm and stuff.
All right, you talked about that. You started off at Iowa Western Community, and then you went on to play at the University of South Alabama. Do you want to talk a little bit about your college experience and when you thought maybe you could be a major leaguer?
Yeah, it's really a unique story. The people I talk to about it, even the kids, they can't believe the route that it had taken me to professional ball. But when I left Abraham Lincoln and I walked on to my junior college in my hometown, wasn't guaranteed I was going to make the team or anything. And really, the only reason I was able to make that team was, like I said before, was because of the arm strength. Ended up pitching, I think, 14 innings my freshman year, 39 innings my sophomore year. Did a bunch of tryout camps after my sophomore year. Sent out, probably 100 letters to different colleges, Division I, NAIA, Division II, whatever. And it seemed like every school wanted me to basically walk on. I had a few offers. I did have an offer from the University of Nebraska, but I wanted to really get away from Council Bluffs, my hometown, kind of get out there. So I went to a tryout camp for the Mets. Had a pretty good showing. He made a phone call to the University of South Alabama. The pitching coach flew up there at the end of June, which was fairly late, to sign guys to scholarships. Liked what he saw, offered me a 50% scholarship, and then ended up throwing, my junior year, I think 148 innings. Was drafted in the 9th round by the Cubs. Elected to come back for my senior year, and ended up throwing, I think, 157 innings, and then was a second-round pick, and eventually signed with the Kansas City Royals. And I think when I really started to realize it was I had a chance at professional ball was probably halfway through my junior year. thinking that, I've got a shot at doing something pretty special right here.
You mentioned being drafted by Kansas City in 1992, and we've heard lots of stories from former NFL players on what draft day is like, but what's draft day like for a baseball player? It's got to be a little bit different.
Well, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was here at the University of South Alabama. I was sitting in the dorm room. I had my folks in town. My roommate, who was an All-American that year, we were both kind of waiting for phone calls. And they were actually calling my house number back in Iowa, so I never received the news until like 2 or 3 days later. I didn't know what was going on, but eventually got the call, congratulating me, and it's a big deal, obviously, but it's not such a big deal like it is nowadays. With I think them televising it, and you know what I mean, so forth.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it. It was just very laid back. The coaches, they congratulate you. It's not like they were waiting around or anything. It's just a small group, and that was it.
So what was your experience like playing in the minor leagues? I mean, is it like Bull Durham? Or I know there's a lot of long bus trips, stuff like that. You want to just tell the listeners?
It's very close to that. It's my first year, that 92 season, I'd leave South Alabama and I fly all the way out to Eugene, Oregon, to play my first professional baseball game, short season. So it's very much like Bull Durham. You don't know what to expect, and you're just kind of thrown right out there, and it was a great experience. Something I look back on and feel very fortunate to be a part of. It's a lot of hard work. Obviously, the minor leaguers don't get well taken care of compared to, obviously getting to the big leagues or being on the 40-man roster. But it's something you work really hard towards and you work your tail off to get to that level. So, but yeah, the long bus rides. I remember we had the bus rides out there in Oregon, and then obviously, I went to the Carolina League in '93. Long bus rides there, and then I was in AA with Memphis, and then got traded to the Pirates, and I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, and a lot of long bus rides through that AA, bunch of those AA teams and so forth. So, the one good thing I guess about my minor league experience was, it was fairly short. I think I only spent almost a year and a half in the minor leagues before finally making my debut.
All right. Now, the one thing people think of a Major League Baseball player, professional baseball player, they think they're making a lot of money. You want to tell us a little bit about what the perks of minor league baseball are? I'm sure they probably give you meals and housing. But if you're not a second or first-round draft pick, what kind of money does a minor league baseball player make a week back then?
They don't make it. They don't hardly make anything. It's really tough. You do get meal money. I can't remember what we earned, what we got a day. It might have been like $15 or $20 a day. Your housing is you're on your own. Usually 4 or 5 guys would go in together on a place and split the rent. And I think I remember my first year. I think I was making $700 or $750 a month. Playing in the minors, and that eventually increased. By the time I got to AAA, and I hadn't even been on the 40-man roster yet, and I think I was bringing home about $1,100 a month, and I'm married. I'm newly married, and having to provide and so forth. So, it's definitely not easy. I think there do need to be some changes made with the minor league system. You get on that 40-man roster, and it obviously makes things a little bit different and much better lifestyle, I guess.
Well, you talked about being in the minors, how it's a little bit like Bull Durham and a lot of hard work and, like you're saying, not making a lot. And, if you're married or if you have kids, it's really got to be really tough. So how did it feel to get called up to the majors by the Pirates in '94?
Man, it was awesome. It was unbelievable. To finally, you get, well, what happened for me was we're in Buffalo and I get called back into the manager's office and there's Cam Bonifay, Pete Vukovich, I'm trying to remember, there was a couple other guys in there. I just remember Pete Vukovich going, do you think you know what you're doing out there? And I don't know what's going on. And I said, yes, sir. I do. And he goes, you really think you know what's going on out there? And I said, yeah. And and they said, congratulations, man. We're calling you up and you're making your start, May 15th or whatever. And it's just, man, just emotions, just runs through you. And it's like, wow, man, it really just happened. So, that's definitely something I'll never forget. I remember, calling my wife, calling my mom and dad. This is before cell phones, obviously. So I'm using a payphone.
True.
And calling them, and they're just ecstatic and a lot of tears, and so it's a great feeling. It just feels like everything just kind of falls into place, and it worked out really well.
All right. Do you remember the first batter you pitched to in the major leagues?
Oh yeah, Lenny Dykstra. I walked him.
Lenny Dykstra.
Imagine that. That for a guy who had pretty good control, coming up. I think the juices were flowing a little bit. Obviously amped up, overthrowing. But he was the only walk of the game that I had. He did come around and score, and I lost that game 1-0. Ended up going 6 innings, but Lenny Dykstra, and this is a year after they just played in the World Series, so it was a big day. It was it was in Philadelphia. I think it was Mother's Day, 55,000 people in the stands. My mom and dad's anniversary. They're in the stands. My wife, my brothers, their wives, and and I played down in Wilmington, Delaware, in the Carolina League, so I had a bunch of those people make the trip up, and it was just great. It was just awesome.
Well, talk about what it was like for you to be a starter on opening day in 1995.
Oh, right after the strike?
Yeah.
Well, it was I was just so naive to the whole situation. I didn't know what was going on, the year before in 94. And then to find out, we're going on strike, and so I just come back home, and you stay in touch and what's going on in the meetings and so forth. Obviously, the World Series canceled, and you just prepare yourself like you're getting ready for the next season. So, I was just totally shocked. I was the opening day starter. There was some other guys that were more deserving. I thought, Steve Cook. He had a couple good years there. Denny Nagel was on that team. Paul Wagner, some more established veterans. But here I am making the start, and I believe it was against Montreal. But it was it turned into a fiasco. Pretty quick. It got kind of ugly. I think that was a game. Cliff Floyd, I think he broke his hand. He missed most of the season. But he came around on it was almost like an inside the park home run, cleared the bases, and I hit Moises Alou, the next batter, and then the fans just threw a bunch of stuff out onto the field. There was like I don't know how many people, 50,000 people in the stands. People are excited, and then I'm telling you, after that all happened, I think there might have been 13,000. It just emptied out pretty quick. So that was a year, I wasn't too proud of. I really struggled. I got sent back down, and I really couldn't find myself on what made me successful. the year before, and I had to kind of come back here and relearn what I used to do, and then I picked it back up in '96 and just kind of took off from there.
All right, now as you talk, many pitchers go through a roller coaster from the starting rotation to the bullpen, maybe even back to the minors here and there. What was it like for you during those first few years with the Pirates?
No, it was exciting, obviously, in the beginning. Then it got frustrating, because I was in the bullpen to start out that next year. I came back up in '95, and in September I was in the bullpen. In '96 I started off in the bullpen, and I knew all along I could be an effective starter. It was just proven to them that I could go back out there and do what I was doing before. And they finally saw it, I think, halfway through the '96 season. Then they stuck me back in the starting rotation, and everything was fine. I think the most frustrating thing was we were such a young team. Everybody knew we weren't going to win. We weren't going to be there at the end of the race. So you had to deal with that. It was very tough to win a lot of ball games. That's the one thing I wish things could have changed. When I was with Pittsburgh at that time, was we were a better ball club, and we could have done things a little bit better than what we did at that time.
Well, after being traded to the Cubs, you experienced some really great moments, like getting some shutouts, and that was your 20-win season in 2001, and you were named an All-Star. Tell us about your time with the Cubs.
Well, it was. I remember getting traded that winter in '98, and I was excited, believe it or not. I went through some frustrating times there with Pittsburgh, and I think it was a good time for a change. And going to Chicago was just kind of it was kind of like a fresh start, and kind of put things back together again, and let's see what happens. And obviously, it worked out really well. The '99 season, I think we weren't that good, but it was the first year I was able to, I think, eclipse 200 innings, and then just kind of build off of that. I felt like maturity-wise as a pitcher, I had grown leaps and bounds those years in Chicago. After I came out of Pittsburgh, I learned how to pitch a little bit more effectively, some things to do with the baseball and so forth. And believe it or not, I love the day games. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I just love being able to pitch a day game and have the evenings off and kind of enjoy it with your family and so forth.
Yeah, everybody likes working day shift better than they do second or third shift, John.
except the hitters. The hitters were the ones that always complained coming in that.
Oh yeah, you got the sun and the shadows and all that. Yeah.
Or they couldn't stand the day games. They just weren't used to it. But no, it was great, man. It was especially the 01 season. That was a big year, and I really couldn't have done it without my teammates. A lot of things just fell into place. I just really felt like that's when everything started to click, and I actually had an idea.
Yeah, you talk about the 2001 season. I mean, what's it like to start at Iowa Western Community College and to find yourself, 10 years later, you're on the mound, you're on the All-Star team?
Yeah, it's it's. I think what really helped me, guys, was looking back at it now. I never really put a lot of pressure on myself to put myself at that level. I know a lot of guys, they make commitments saying, I'm going to be an All-Star, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I played it to the level. I tried to make myself better each year coming in, and I really tried not to put a whole lot of pressure on myself. And I just enjoyed going out there doing what I was doing. That's pitching, competing against the best hitters in the world, being successful at times, failing at times, but at the same time, working with the guys on the ball club, working fast, getting the guys in there to hit, and hopefully it's going to be a quick game, and just take it a step at a time and just really enjoy it. So, at that, the AllStar Game was just like a blank. I can't, there's just so much going on during that time, but I'm very thankful I had the chance to experience it, though, for sure.
Well, we've talked to a lot of players from various sports that have gone through injuries. It's always very, very tough on people to go through injuries, and you went through a few yourself, and most notably the Tommy John surgery. What was that experience like, and what was the recovery like?
Yeah, it was. I remember exactly when it started. It was during the 01 season. Pitched a complete game down in Houston. Woke up the next day. Elbow didn't feel exactly right. I knew something was going on. It wasn't torn or anything. Tried to work through it throughout the season. Doing extra exercises and so forth. It would be there, and then once I started warming up, it would just kind of disappear. So I could pitch with it. The 2002 season, I start throwing, and about my fifth throw of playing catch, in January, man, it just grabbed on me, and I mean, it was a sharp pain, and I knew right then and there something was wrong. So I go see Andrews and so forth, and he assures me, it's not torn. Just keep doing your exercises, strengthen it, all that. Just see how it plays out. Well, I continue to do that through the season. And the Cubs are really taking care of me. They're watching me, my innings and so forth, game situations, making sure I'm not out there too long. But then it finally just got to a point of it was really starting to affect my shoulder, so I opted for the surgery. And going in there, Andrews, he said you were probably could have been a couple days, could have been a few weeks, months, maybe another year or two before this thing would have snapped. He said it was basically like a rubber band that was just stretched, and it was just on the limit of just snapping. So I had the surgery done. Obviously, it was kind of bad timing. Here I am. The Cubs had an option on me for 03. They declined it. So I'm basically a free agent. My wife's pregnant. I'm building a new house, and I've got no team. So, it can play with you a little bit. The rehab process, luckily, I got into some good hands here in Mobile, Alabama. His name is Bob Fleming, and he is, tremendous. He can do some unbelievable things. So he really helped me out the first 4 or 5 months before I had to report with the Yankees down there for spring training. But the rehab process is not easy. Everybody thinks it's just you're working your elbow or your arm or whatever, and it's really not. It's your whole body, your core, your shoulder, your legs. I was probably in there 4 to 5 hours a day, 6 days a week, doing this whole process. And it took, I probably could have been ready at a year, but it carried on. Obviously I missed all of 03, and then I had the off season to recover, and it was 18 months altogether before I finally got back out there to pitch in a game. And there was up and downs those first 2 or 3 months, and it seemed like when August came around, I was back to my old self. I felt totally fine, felt comfortable, and the ball felt really good coming out of my hand.
Yeah, so you talk about you went to the Yankees 2004. They were the defending American League champions. You overcame the injuries. You got to make a few starts in the playoffs. what was your playoff experience like for you, and also just the experience of being a New York Yankee?
Oh man, it was amazing. I mean, the Yankees, I really couldn't have been set up in a better situation coming off that surgery, and I really owe the thanks to Joe Girardi and the late Oscar Acosta. Oscar was my pitching coach in Chicago, and he was with the Yankees a few years back, and then obviously Joe Girardi, being a part of those World Series teams. He caught quite a few of my games in Chicago, and I think those two guys, they really put in a good word for me going over to New York, and and to be a part of that organization was unbelievable. It really opened my eyes to the way things should be run, if you know what I mean. It's definitely first class. They're there for one thing, and that's to win a championship, which is, I'm sure what all ball clubs are wanting to do, but they let it be known that this is what we're here for, and they take care of business. So that was basically an all-star team for me, just playing that one year with a bunch of those guys. It was a lot of fun, But, and then going into the playoffs, obviously being a part of that was just a great opportunity to go in there and pitch some postseason games and be pretty successful. I'm just glad I didn't really give it up in a couple of them, and I should keep the ball games close and give us a chance to win a ball game. But something I'll never forget.
Well, after your time with the Yankees, you went to the Phillies, and I believe you ended up with the Cubs at the end. Want to tell us about what the last few years of your career were like?
Yeah. I tried to sign back with the Yankees. I think they were wanting to get younger in the rotation, so I ended up signing a 3-year deal with Philadelphia. Go over there, have a pretty good first year, 05. I think I won 17 games that year. Come into 06, had a rough first half, really bad. Felt like I pitched better down the stretch. And then come to find out, I'm on the trading block. They're trying to move me, so forth. I show up to camp. I know all this is going on. I could have handled it much better than what I did. I wasn't very happy about it. Obviously they put me in the bullpen, and then I think after 2 or 3 weeks went back in the rotation. But just really didn't pitch that effectively. I felt like the last 2 years in Philly, in 06 and 07, than what I'd like to have ended up getting injured, tore a ruptured a tendon in my foot. And so I missed basically the last 3 months of the 07 season, and then signed as a free agent back with the Cubs. And then, I was in the bullpen. All that year I made one start. Wasn't very good. And it just, missed the last 2 months of 08. And I felt like things weren't working out to where I'd hoped they'd be, and I just decided to retire in September, and I came on home.
All right. What have you been doing since you retired?
It's been 8 years now since I've been out of the game. Really, involving my time with my family. I've gotten into residential development. We have bought a bunch of property just north of Mobile here in Saraland, and it's really become a hotbed. So I've kind of gotten to the developmental side of residential stuff, and that's really keeping me busy and trying to get back into baseball a little bit again.
All right, Matt, you got any final questions?
No real final questions. Just want to say on behalf of Mike and I, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to be on our show, and appreciated hearing about your career.
Oh man, anytime, guys. No, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we can do it again.
Most definitely. I echo Matt's sentiments. How you like those big words for somebody in Indiana?
I like that.
All right, guys, I want to remind everybody the rest of the week we've got top 10 quarterbacks in NFL history with myself, Joe Rodriguez, Matt Andruscavage. Also tomorrow night we'll have former IBF junior welterweight champion Vince Phillips. And we also secured an interview with former Oakland Raiders center Barrett Robbins, which I believe will be next Wednesday or Thursday. Make sure you check us out on thegrillingtruth.net, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and like 10 other things. And I don't want to sit here and read them all off because my wife's going to get mad at me because I'm not watching TV with her right now. But so make sure you check us out at thegrillingtruth.net. Check out our Facebook page. So for Jon Lieber, Matt Andruscavage, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.